Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for June 26, 2012. It is currently 8 a.m. and temperatures range anywhere from the mid 50s to lower 60s this morning. But the important observation is actually the dew points. Look at the dew points. They're in the lower to mid 40s. Rather impressive for this time of year. It feels more like it's a morning in September rather than June. And quite frankly, we could use the break with a very, very nice day on the way with temperatures in the lower to mid 70s along the coast and mid to upper 70s away from the coast. But unfortunately, we're also going to be dealing with a little bit of wind, and I'll show why in just a few minutes. Now, let's take a look at the water vapor satellite picture. You can see our upper level disturbance and cold front that produced the strong to severe thunderstorms yesterday and produced up to 4 inches of rain in portions of Long Island and up to an inch of hail in some locations. Very impressive storms. They are well off the coast now, being driven off into the Atlantic. And what we have is the upper level disturbance starting to lift to the north and east. It's starting to rotate out, and as it's doing so, it's producing sinking air, and that's going to be very important in the forecast for this afternoon. High pressure is starting to take control throughout the entire eastern United States, producing dry conditions, what will be a tranquil weather pattern from today all the way on through this weekend, but we'll also see an increase in temperatures, which I'll discuss in a moment. I just want to show this map right here. This is the observations at 500 millibars from this morning, and it's from the Severe Prediction Center. It's a great weather website, a national website from the National Weather Service. That's free. And what I'm showing here are the 500 millibar winds. Now you might be asking, why are you doing this? Well, as this upper level low lifts to the north and east, these winds ranging anywhere from 50 to 60 knots basically will start to move through the northern mid-Atlantic. Now, I'm not expecting 50, 60 mile per hour winds. What I'm expecting is that as the atmosphere warms and we start to mix down a little bit, what we'll see is some of these winds mix down to the surface, producing winds from the northwest anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour this afternoon. Again, for the most part, tranquil weather conditions, but that breezy wind is going to produce some problems if you're in urban locations, especially in between buildings. So use some caution with those wind gusts gusting up to 30 miles per hour in a few isolated locations. Otherwise, tranquil weather conditions can be expected, with clear skies clearly taking control under that sinking influence behind the upper level low, and high pressure taking control throughout much of the eastern United States. I just want to point out, here is Tropical Storm Debbie. Now you can actually see the low level circulation. Much of the convection and thunderstorms are well to the north and east of the circulation, and Debbie is finally starting to move to the east. I'm expecting Debbie to cross northern Florida and enter the coastal waters of Georgia and South Carolina by Friday. In the meantime, very heavy rainfall is falling over northern Florida and southern Georgia. Many locations need this rainfall, but when you get 10, 20 inches of rain in a very short period of time, it leads to a lot of problems with flash flooding. So unfortunately, there's some problems with flash flooding in these locations, and also the potential for thunderstorms to produce weak tornadoes that could still produce a lot of damage. So Debbie is doing its part in creating havoc over portions of the southeast, especially over northern Florida and southern Georgia, and will continue to do so, unfortunately, through much of this week as Debbie slowly moves through northern Florida. So let's take a look at the forecast here from the European website, European model guide, should I say, from the Penn State EWAL website. You can see for this afternoon, our upper level low is starting to lift to the north and east. High pressure is taking control. Dry conditions can be expected with seasonally cool temperatures in the lower to mid 70s for most locations, mid to upper 70s just away from the coast, basically around the Philadelphia metropolitan area. As we move towards tomorrow again, high pressure is going to remain in control. Now, keep an eye on this ridge here through the entire forecast period. A lot of my premium members know my summer forecast, and it basically revolves around the cold nature of the stratosphere and this ridge becoming very powerful. So as we move through the forecast period, you can see high pressure is going to remain in control over much of the northern Mid-Atlantic, producing scattered cloud cover, tranquil weather conditions. I can't rule out an isolated shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon because temperatures are going to moderate back into the mid to upper 80s tomorrow, and then upper 80s to mid 90s from Thursday on through next Monday. And with the increase in humidity and a few rogue disturbances here and there, you can easily end up with an afternoon thunderstorm. But the main story is going to be the heat returning to the northern Mid-Atlantic and remaining in place on through the entire forecast period. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here is that the more that the 500 millibar heights build, the weaker these troughs are. Okay? So, in this case, you can see all the focus with the 500 millibar troughs are more in Canada. And yes, while there is a weak cold front that moves through, the change in the air mass is very limited and very short lived. So you might end up with one day in the upper 70s to mid 80s, and then your temperatures rapidly rebound into the lower to mid 90s. And that pattern is starting to become established and starting to repeat on itself. And as a result, well, it looks like the hot and humid weather conditions that I've been forecasting, well, they will be returning very quickly. And each time we go through this process, the return of hot and humid weather conditions will be faster and faster as this heat ridge, which will be centered over the Mississippi River Valley, continues to build and strengthen. It's basically a feedback process. The colder the stratosphere is, the more that the 500 millibar heights could build. The more the 500 millibar heights could build, the stronger the high pressure at the surface and the heat dome at the surface builds. The more the heat builds in the surface, the higher the 500 millibar pattern. So, as a result, it feeds back on itself and becomes stronger and stronger. And that's pretty much what we're starting to see in the model guidance in the long range, as this ridge becomes more and more established as we move on through June and into early July. This trough becomes established over the Gulf of Alaska and the West Coast. And meanwhile, we still have a very weak trough trying to fight back in the northern Atlantic. So we'll be on the edge of this hot and humid weather pattern. Thankfully, we won't see highs in the upper 100s, but we'll still be dealing with temperatures in the upper 80s to mid 90s with high levels of humidity. So if you've been waiting for hot and humid weather conditions, you're going to get it. Well, that's your forecast for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. You could follow the latest weather information and trust on that information, should I say, at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter and Facebook. Have a wonderful day. Get out there. It's going to be beautiful. And stay safe out there.